Hello. Welcome to our subject, developmental psychology. Let's talk about some terms under developmental psychology and some of the issues that are arising or arise in the subject, developmental psychology. What is developmental psychology? According to Okunade 2016, it examines the influences of nature and nurture on the process of human development and processes of change in context and across time. So it's about human nature processes across time. So when we say across time, it could be through different years or it could be through different millennia. It is age-related changes throughout the human lifespan. So age-related. So 1 years old, 2 years old, 3 years old, ano bang ginagawa nila? Tapos nag-teenager, anong nararanasan ng teenager? Then naging adult, ano yung mga problema or crisis na pinagdadaanan ng isang adult? A discipline of scientific inquiry. Why scientific inquiry? Because some of the developmentalists are actually going to theorist. So when we say theorist, it's a hypothetical guess na sometimes hindi siya pwede or hindi siya applicable sa isang tao at minsan applicable naman siya sa isang tao or in terms of their nature or in terms of their cultural background. So kailangan ng deeper research and deeper inquiry or collection of information. Recognizes humans of all societies and cultures as beings who are in process or constantly growing and changing. Okay, so lahat tayo is under ng developmental psychology because we are always in process. So kahit 70 years old na tayo, 80 years old na tayo, in process pa rin tayo. Matatapos na ang development natin if we die. So if we go back to earth, we become earthlings again. So dun lang matatapos yung developmental natin as a person. Mental psychology as a science. So like we have said earlier, it's a scientific study of how and why human beings or individuals change over the course of their life. So first and foremost, conception, then infant, babyhood, toddler, then we will go to adolescence, adult development, aging, and dying, or even if siguro, possibility, reincarnation. This field examines change across a broad range of topics, including which we will be discussed along the way. Motor skills or physical skills, like from crawling to running. Cognitive development, from bubbling to speaking. Executive functions, like deciding on your own. Like, for instances, in your high school life, parents pa yung nag-decide, and then towards your college years or adult years, you can decide already on your own. Moral understanding, your faith, your conscience. Language acquisition, some of you may learn different language. Social change because of environment. Personality, emotional development, love affairs, self-concept, and identity formation. Okay, next is we have two types of pattern in terms of changes. We have these two, idiographic and normative development. So when we say idiographic, it focuses on an individual cases or events. Like for example, your own development, your pamangkin's own development, and your kids' development if you already have kids or if you're planning to have kids. Yun nga, iba-iba yung pattern ng changes niya. So that is called idiographic, from the word idio, which means individual. Next is normative, which means the stages of development that the majority of children of that specific age are expected to achieve. So it is according to the norm. It is according to the developmental stages. It is according to the theories. Like for example, in this specific age or in this specific month of the infant, 6 months, dapat kumakain na sila ng soft foods. So that is an example of normative development. Another one is at the age of 1 year old, they must start to walk on their own little by little. So let's see here the picture. So age in months when 90% of babies have achieved milestones. So this is an example of normative development in terms of pattern of changes. So these are months. These are months, not years. So at 7 months, sitting with support. 9, standing with assistance. 10, hands and knees crawling. 11, walking with assistance. 13 months or 1 year and 1 month, standing alone. 14 months or 1 year and 2 months, walking alone. But some babies already can surpass this milestone already. Like for example, for my kid, he can already walk alone at the age or at the month of 13. Nagra-run na nga siya eh. So, dun mo masasabi yung idiographic pattern of changes niya. Nauuna siya in terms of the norm. 3 main processes that can cause individual change across his lifetime are, so ito yung mga processes, bakit yung ibang bata nauuna or bakit yung ibang teenager nauuna ma-hit yung puberty nila kaysa sa akin. So we have first, maturation, the emergence of individual and behavioral characteristics through growth processes over time. They say that girls or women matured first before men or gentlemen, di ba po? Mas nauuna mag-hit yung puberty milestone ng mga girls in terms of boys na yun nga po, ang aga kasi nung stage ng menstruation nila, yung breast nila lumalaki na, and then yung irritability of the hormones ay nagre-release. So that is what you called maturation, the growth processes over time. Next is we have learning, is a relatively permanent change in behavior as a result of experience or practice. So wala naman pong differences in terms of boys and girls in terms of learning. It actually depends upon the curiosity of an individual. Like for example, for toddlers, they are more on critical thinking skills, kaya po minsan tanong sila ng tanong sa atin. So yun yung learning process nila across the toddler years. Next is we have critical periods. So these are seen in the maturational stage in the lifespan of an organism, during which the nervous system is especially sensitive to certain environmental stimuli. So these are critical periods. Like for example, our picture. One of the critical period in the babyhood is how to use the toilet. No? So if ever na hindi niya natutunan or late niyang natutunan ang pag-use ng toilet, like for example, 6 years old, hindi pa siya makapag-pee sa toilet, that will be affected if magiging adult na siya. So later on, we will discuss that according to the theory of Freud and Erikson. Ano bang mangyayari kapag hindi niya na-meet yung critical period niya according sa age niya or late niya na-meet yung critical period? Okay, before we go through the different theories of the developmental psychology, let's talk about first the issues. So first issue, we have the continuity versus discontinuity. So it is solely and evenly continuous or marked by age-specific periods. So age-specific, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So let's talk about first the continuous model. It is a smooth process without sharp or distinct stages through which an individual must pass. Oo, ano lang yan, at the age of baby, susunod yan, toddler, susunod yan, adolescents, and adult. Tuloy-tuloy lang yan, walang mangyayari dyan. So that is actually a smooth process. An example could be yung conception, 9 months of smooth process. So that is what we call continuous model. On the other hand of the spectrum, we have this continuous model. Development is a series of discrete stages by at least one task that an individual must accomplish before progressing to the next stage. So ito na yung sinasabi natin, papasok yung mga critical periods. Like for example, dapat before mag-toddler nakakapag-walk alone na siya. Pag hindi niya na-meet yun, kailangan ma-meet niya yun. Kasi if ever nga na hindi ka makapag-walk alone, under this continuous model yon. Kasi you have to complete one task before progressing to the next stage. So walking and then running. Then after running, siguro sprinting, no? Okay, or dashing. Okay, so these are examples of this continuous model. So we have there the periods: infancy, toddler, early childhood, middle childhood, adolescence, early adulthood, middle adulthood, and late adulthood. So these are actually the Freud's and Erikson's theories of developmental task. So in the Freud stage, these are the sensitive parts of an individual. We have for infancy, oral. So why oral? So let's see first, what can an infant do? Ang kaya lang naman ng infant gawin is to thumb suck, which is to satisfy his oral or her oral. Tapos, mag-drink ng milk through nipples. Kaya, puro oral yung sensitive part niya. And then, according to Erikson, ang crisis nun is trust versus mistrust. So, why trust versus mistrust? In infancy, no, if you feed the baby through his mother's breast, nabibuild up yung trust nila for each other. Siyempre, nararamdaman ng infant yung warmth ng breast ng mother. So, he or she feel secured. Okay? But for some instances, when the mother is not in the house or nag-work siya or not enough yung milk na naproproduce niya, the infant pwede naman talaga mag-bottle feed. So, minsan, dun na a-arise yung mistrust ng infant na like, bakit hindi ako nagmi-milk sa breast ng mother ko? Bakit dito sa bottle? So, if hindi na-meet ng infant yun, hindi niya na-meet yung satisfaction ng oral niya, dun mabibuild up yung trust issues niya. Okay? So, later on, if we discuss thoroughly the stages, makikita nyo na magbabackfire yung not satisfying the oral part of the infancy sa adulthood niya. Maybe kumakagat siya ng pencil, kumakagat siya ng takip ng ballpen, or even nagtatamsak pa rin siya habang natutulog. So we will discuss all of this one on the latter part of the discussion. So just that is just an example and a glimpse of continuous model. Okay, we have this one, Piaget's cognitive development, sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operations, and formal operations. So let's give an example in the sensory motor, which is 0 to 2 years old. So what can a 0 to 2 years old can do? Siyempre, ang alam lang naman nila gawin is through looking, touching of objects, and then sucking of their toys or their hands. The child also has a primitive understanding of cause and effect relationships. Kaya sometimes, if they pick up something, they will throw it on the ground, tapos bigla silang tatawa. Tapos they want you to pick it up and give it to them. So, tapos itatapon ulit nila. So, that is actually understanding of cause and effect relationship. Another one, a term called object permanence. It appears around 9 months. This is actually being developed in the game of peekaboo na you will hide and then hahanapin ka nila. Okay? Then you will say, peekaboo, andun ka lang pala sa harap nila. And then later on, they will realize na even though you hide, andun ka pa din. So that is object permanence. Okay, how about these stages? So it starts with early adulthood transition, which is actually on your period. Okay, so novice phase of early adulthood. When we say novice, ito yung sobrang, hindi naman sobra, beginner stages of early adulthood, like being independent, deciding on your own, and so on and so forth. Our next issue is all about nature versus nurture. So this is an ending battle of these two because it depends upon the circumstances. If your nature is or your personality comes from your genes or from your parents, or if it comes from you if it comes from the environment or your caretaker. For example, there is a twin baby. The other twin is raised by his grandparents, and the other one is raised by his mother. So the nature is both the same, but the nurture is different. So how does your personality develop? Is it through your nature or more on your nurture? Sometimes the answer is nurture is somewhat above the nature habit, but some people, they do appreciate that their personality comes from their nature, not from their nurture. See the battle between nature and nurture. So remember the two issues in developmental psychology. We have continuity and discontinuity, and nature versus nurture. So that's it for our introduction and issues in developmental psychology. Thank you.